Today in this video, we're going to be talking about a really sweet living room system. This is the Perlisten R series. So we're in Matt Mormon's home. This is up here in Middleton, Florida. Matt wanted something that he could place in the room that would not only perform well, provide a great immersive experience, but also looks really gorgeous in a living room setup. Many of you over the years have said, Michael, I don't have a dedicated theater room. I wish I did, but I don't have a dedicated space that I can allot to putting speakers in and big massive subwoofers. So I need something that is going to sound great for movies and music, but also need it to appeal to the wife. I need it to kind of blend in with the environment here. So in this video, I want to take you through this entire system. We're not going to do a deep dive into each component. We'll do that in future videos as we continue out this series. But I wanted to give you just some perspective. I want to give you some inspiration on maybe what you could do in a living room setup like this. So let's first go ahead and talk about the speaker layout. So in this room, we've got a 5.2.4 Dolby Atmos system. So that means we've got 5 speakers on the bed layer, a front left, a center channel, right, 2 side surrounds. We've got 4 overhead height speakers for the Dolby Atmos, and then we've got 2 subwoofers. Now the R series fits right in between Perlisten's flagship S series and their brand new A series. So if you don't have the budget for the flagship S series, I believe the R series is a phenomenal option. So let's go ahead and take a look at each speaker and the subwoofers and what equipment he's got here in his setup. Now, when building out your living room home theater, one thing you want to do is make sure that you've got a solid front sound stage. And my encouragement is always to go with the best that you can for that front. Surrounds aren't as important, heights aren't as important, but if you can invest the majority of your money in your speaker system, in your left, your center, and your right, as well as your subwoofer, I think it's going to really pay off in the experience that you get. And so that's exactly what Matt did here. He went with the largest tower in the R series. So these are the R7T. One thing I really appreciate from Perlisten is in all of their speaker models and subwoofer models, it makes sense. It's not just arbitrary numbers and letters. And so here we have the R7T, which R is the R series. The 7 means that there's 7 speakers in here. So we've got a tweeter, we've got 2 mid-range drivers, and then we've got 4 woofers. So that's the 7, and then T would just be for tower. In the middle, we have the R5C. So again, there's 5 speakers, and it is C for the center channel. For surrounds, he went with the R4S. Now these make great surrounds because not only are they small profile, they still have tremendous output. Now these speakers are perfect for side surrounds or rear surrounds for several reasons. Number 1, they're compact. They're not very big. Number 2, they're angled down, and so you can put them up a little bit higher in your room like Matt did here, and they're angled down right at your listening position. Now in a living room setup like this, it's difficult to put maybe on-ceiling speakers. They just kind of look out of place and they don't fit with the vibe and decor. But to be able to get some overhead heights, one good way to do that is through an in-ceiling speaker. So Matt went with the R2IC. So this has 2 drivers in it, and IC just means in ceiling. For subwoofers, Matt went with the R210S. Now, Perlisten does make a larger 212S, but Matt didn't have the room. He didn't have the space here in the living room because, as you can see right over here, there's a door that goes into the bedroom. And so he was limited on the width of the soundstage up here. And so he went with dual subwoofers, which I always recommend. Dual subwoofers is not only going to give you more output in the room, but it's also going to give you better seat-to-seat bass response in your various seating positions. And so ideally, if you could do 4 in a room, that would even be even better. When you dial that in and calibrate it, maybe like with a mini DSP, 2x4 HD, or even an AVR that has 4 independent sub outputs, maybe DIRAC with bass control, you can really dial that in and get a really smooth response with multiple subwoofers. But the way his room is set up, he didn't want extra subwoofers around the room. And again, he really didn't need more output than what these can produce. Matt chose to go with a dedicated processor for this room. So this is the Marantz AV20. So this provides processing for everything, but it does not have any internal amplification. It also has 4 independent subwoofer outputs, so that if he did want to add 2 more subwoofers down the road, this could easily accommodate that. Down below that, there's a Furman power conditioner, the Elite 15, that everything gets plugged into. For streaming, he's using an Apple TV 4K, and for movie watching, he's got a Kaleidescape Strato V player paired up with a 48 terabyte TerraPrime server. Paired with the Marantz AV10 are 2 dedicated amplifiers. Now this is a 2-channel amplifier and an 8-channel amplifier. And so the Primary A35.2 is 200 watts by 2 into 8 ohms, but it's 400 watts by 2 into 4 ohms. And since the R7T towers are 4 ohm, they're getting 400 watts per channel to each speaker. Below that is the Primary A35.8. That's an 8-channel amplifier. So that provides 8 by 150 watts into 8 ohms and 8 by 300 watts into 4 ohms. Now, if I had to guess, Matt is probably bridging 2 of those channels so that he can get 300 watts to the center channel and then using 150 watts to the rear surrounds as well as the overheads. So when you're looking at the R series, you may be trying to figure out which speakers, which subwoofers should I go with? In talking with Perlisten, for the most part, there's no difference in the level of performance. What you're trading off is the amount of output. So if you've got a big, massive room, go with the biggest towers and go with the biggest, subwoofers they provide. But if you've got a smaller, more confined space, this is a pretty open floor plan. Opens up to the kitchen. You've got a hallway here. You've got a stairway that goes up to the dedicated theater room upstairs. And so if you got a bigger room, go with the bigger subwoofers. But as you can see, Matt just didn't have enough space up here to go with the larger 12-inch drivers. But when you step down to the smaller ones, again, the only thing you're sacrificing is output. And so really just depending on how big your space is, depends on how big of a speaker and subwoofer you need to go with. And most of the time when the family's down here just hanging out, chilling, like I said, they've got a dedicated theater room upstairs. But down here, when they're just kicking back, watching some Netflix or maybe even watch a movie on Kaleidescape, they're usually sitting on this main seating position here. And so the Atmos height channels up here are directly in proportion to mainly provide coverage right here. These side chairs here probably aren't going to get that great of an experience. Same thing way over here, but right here, you can probably get 3 people on the couch and still get a really incredible immersive experience. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the different models in the R series. So here we are in the R series. You can see we've got the largest towers are the R7T. So if you wanted a smaller profile, if you didn't need as much output, you could step down to the R5T. So that would have 5 drivers as opposed to 7. Over here we've got an R5M, which is a monitor. So of course you would need some speaker stands for this. These are not bookshelf speakers. These are massive output. It's basically like a mini tower. So think of it that way. And then over here is the R5C that Matt has. Scrolling down, we've got the R4B. So these are the bookshelf version of the R4S. And so depending on your setup, some people like to go with the angled R4S on maybe your side surrounds and then go with the R4B for the rear surrounds. Just really depends on your layout and what you're going for. But the R4S are a much slimmer profile. To me, the R4B would be great for bookshelf speakers on a stand as your surround back channels or maybe surround side channels. So that would work out really good there. Or if you just want to do like a 2-channel setup or a bookshelf speaker up front for your LCR, that would work great as well. A couple of subwoofer options. We've got the 212S. So that has dual 12-inch drivers, the dual 10-inch drivers, which is the 210S that Matt has. And then over here, there's an in-wall solution, the R5i, which would be 5 drivers, a left and right configuration. Here would be the matching center for that, the R5IC, and then the matching R4i LCRS. And so these can be used a combination of ways. If you do not want your speakers to be out in the room, you want to hide them, this would be an amazing combination, being able to do 3 of these, the R5 ILR, or if you want to put it horizontal, maybe underneath your TV, you could do that as well. And so again, just depending on how much output you need in your room is going to determine, the level of the speaker that you're wanting to pick, whether it's the R4i or the R5i LR. So for in ceiling, we got a couple options here. The R2IC, that's what's utilized in this theater here. But then you also have an R3IC, so that would add an extra driver here. And then a couple other options for subwoofers. So this is one of their newest subwoofers in the R series, the R18S. So that's an 18-inch driver. Of course, you've got the R15S, which is a 15-inch driver, R12S, 12 driver, R10S, 10-inch driver, R8S, which is an 8-inch driver. So the difference here is these are single drivers versus up here, these are dual push-pull configuration. So you'd have a driver up here on the front facing, and then you've got one down here, and there's like a little vent. So if I scroll all the way back down, these are also some new products from the R series, the R18IS. So this would be a way to get massive output in your room without taking up any space at all. So this is an in-wall enclosure, and I believe it can even be added as an on-wall. That's an option as well. Now, if you have a massive room, but you still want to have that really clean look and you don't want to have speakers all around your room, you could go with these larger R7i LR. These are in-wall speakers. And so if you put 3 of these behind an acoustically transparent screen in a dedicated theater room or even in a living room space, man, that would be absolutely incredible. And then down here, we've got 2 remaining. We've got the R71C and the R7C. Now, if you're looking to do something very similar to this in your house or maybe even in your dedicated theater room, the speakers and subwoofers total, they're gonna run about $40,000, just a little bit above $40,000. So it's definitely by far not an inexpensive system, but this is an absolute first class THX Dominus system, which is gonna absolutely perform, but also look amazing. I'll do future videos on each one of these dedicated speakers and subwoofers, and we'll take a deep dive into their specs and talk about that in other videos. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you're interested in Perlisten for your setup, feel free to reach out to us at obsessedhometheater.com. We've got everything on the website. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. We'll continue this series in future videos, so stay tuned. Hope you have an incredible week. God bless, and I'll catch you in the next video.